we'll get the thing started. And Julia, I know, we'll have, we'll try to get you out right at 9:45. I'll keep an eye on the clock and everything. So, let's see. Let me make sure.
Before you go live, one sec.
Oh no, that's part of it.
Oh yeah, we're here.
If you're cool with it, I'll keep it up.
No, it's a segment in the show.
Oh, love it. Cheers.
We lead with what you're drinking.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'll just get this tweeted out as well. Make sure everything's good.
I keep forgetting that I have to control the one that's filming me with my fingers, and I have control over my other computer with my mouse. Oh, and look at there. Georgia Tech won by 16 points at Virginia Tech. By God.
Sweet. Are we in the dance?
We might be now.
That's what I knew, it's kind of hinging on a few things.
Well, Virginia Tech was ranked 16th, and we kicked the crap out of them on the road. I'd say that's a good little feather in the cap.
It lends some credence, right? You would think.
Well, we just beat the holy you-know-what out of Miami.
Mm.
Largest margin of victory on the road for Georgia Tech in ACC history by 27 points. That's pretty fun.
That's a whomping right there. Hey, good time to get some mo, huh?
Yeah. It's the right time to get hot.
Mm-hmm. Shoot, they got to be making picks here in the next, 2 weeks? 2 weekends?
Yeah, so the ACC tournament will start on the 9th of March, I think. There's like 3 more regular season games left or something like that.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
Duke at home, Syracuse at home. And then, let's see what else it's got to say. Yeah, 3 games left. Syracuse and Duke at home, and Wake Forest on the road.
Okay. Well, if we go 2-1, then that's got to be a shoe-in, but that's not a layup, as it turns out. Anyway, well, let's get this thing started. Julia, we have improved our technology a little bit since the last time we talked, like almost 2 years ago. We have the Zoom thing now, and hopefully I'm not gonna cut out on you much, but I'll kind of do the intro, probably about a minute there. You'll hear me bring Sherwin on and then bring you on and everything. So all the normal stuff, but otherwise, I mean, we just kind of riff and have fun, and like I said, I'll keep an eye on time and everything. So appreciate you hanging out with us either way. Usually we'll, after the show, we'll give all the thanks and everything, but I'll let you go during the show. And but either way, I'll prepend by saying appreciate you being on.
Thank you, and thank you for being flexible. Sorry that other week in February just got quite busy.
Oh, I think this is like the 3rd or 4th time. I think you were part of our, maybe, I can't remember, part of our downtime at one point. We had to go offline for a couple weeks while old Rusty's computer decided to get trashed. So,
yeah.
We took our first forced, not our personal decision, 2 weeks off in a row for the first time in 5.5 years.
Right. Well, are y'all ready to roll? Sherwin, you ready?
Thumbs up.
All right, Julia?
Yep.
All right, here goes nothing. We're recording now. Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgame Air Racing Podcast, episode number 279. It's Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021. I'm Tailgame Air Rusty Wallace in the PTM Podcast Studio in Atlanta, Georgia. This podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. You go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month. Get that free koozie and some stickers. Best part is, every cent this year, we're once again donating to sponsoring drivers. So join the PTM Posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. This week's show, as always, brought to you by our official sponsors at that $5 and up per month level. Here we go. Aaron Bearden, Robert Keplinger, Coleman McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brandon Crowd, Kathleen McDonald, Brandon Carl, Rika Porter, Julie Bosley, Ed Greer, Third Young Motorsports, David Mullins, Patrick Johnson, Brett Morris, Crystal Smoke, Fred Rosado, Chad Knapp, and Stacey Coleman, Lisa Chinano, Rick Houston, Sarah Enbari, Evan Roller, Matthew Bishop, Harry Bolzania, AJ Evangelista, Les Miller, and Jumpy Bob. Woo! Got him. It's, go slow to go fast. I thought about it beforehand, and it all worked out, and got the one breather in.
Yeah, you backed the corner up a little bit and got off a little faster.
That's right. Exactly. Well, he's already talked, but welcome to the show from the PTM North Carolina studio. Pre-game engineer Andrew Shorn. What's up, dude?
Hey, man. Glad to get back at it. Glad to have this really cool guest, especially given some of the things that are in the topics that are not just necessarily NASCAR related.
That's right. I'm super excited to get this one going. Like, I've been chomping at the bit and watching all this stuff and blah, 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 and ready to do it. So let's go ahead and bring her on. Welcome back to the show. NASCAR driver, STEM enthusiast, New York City native, last seen with us on PTM 194 in May of 2019. On Twitter at Julia Landauer. It's Julia Landauer. Julia, what's up?
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be back after, a couple years.
I know, right? I couldn't believe that it had been that long. I keep saying this every week when we have a repeat guest, and I go back, okay, when were they last on? It had to be, 6 months ago? And nope, Rusty, it's been a year and change. Like, dang.
Yeah, no, time is flying, and I just feel like it's going to get worse and worse as I get older and older. And yeah, no, it's a lot's happened.
Right. We got a lot to talk about and catch up on since the last almost 2 years. But before we do, you know how we start this thing. What you drinking tonight, Julia?
I've got a lovely glass of Sauvignon Blanc. Thank you. What are you drinking?
Excellent. I love it. What's the vintage?
Oh, this is where I'm going to sound a little stupid because my boyfriend's French, and so typically I let him just take the lead, and he's just got a nice taste for these things, and now I'm the undereducated one where I used to think I was pretty good on wine. But anyway, he opened the bottle, and I received the glass.
Okay.
And that's the type of evening this has been.
All right, I got to say it. This is totally not PC, but have you dropped the line Formula to him yet?
Oh yeah, no, I have a lot of fun making fun of the French language. Actually, so we started dating a little before the last podcast I was on, so it's also been like 2 years, and okay. I have started to learn French because his family only speaks French, and today on Instagram, I got really frustrated and went on a little rant on my stories because the way they do numbers, it's like multiples of 10 all have their own name. So 10 has its own name, 20, like 10, 20. Anyway, you get to 70 and they start adding numbers. So it's like 60 plus 10. And then 90 is like 4 20s and 10. It's like, this is so inefficient. Like, can't we just have an... Anyway, I digress, but yes.
Soissons à 10.
Yeah.
Sherwin's mother taught French until she retired.
No way! So you speak French?
Je parle un très petit peu de français. I can read it way better than I can say it.
My accent's terrible. Like I'll be saying the right word, but my pronunciation is so bad that it takes a while. And like we can talk about this more, but during 2020. During the pandemic, and I was racing in the EuroNASCAR series, I was living with his family in France, and they don't speak English. So it was like jumping into the deep end. And so I was like, I know I'm saying the right word, and I know, and I'm trying with the pronunciation, and just like they'd be like, "Quoi? Je ne comprends pas," and I have to write it out for them, and they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah." It's like, oh.
I think Rusty and I probably fought some of that growing up in the South, where we say the word just different enough that people are like, what was the word that you just used? Or the colloquialisms we use, the ones that I really freaked my Michigan friends out with was when I said, do what? Because you're asking like, what did you say? Or why did you say that? And they're like, do what?
What do you mean do?
They like repeat it back to you. And I'm like, no, that was a question.
Yeah.
I live and work in Atlanta, Georgia. And at work, they have coined the term Rickyism. To mean, and that's what I go by at work is Ricky, but it's things that Rusty says that they had never heard before, and some of them even grew up, in the general vicinity or something. But I don't know. I think my family's from the deep areas or from the mountainous places or whatever, and I'll just drop something. And I can't even remember what the last one was. I didn't even think this was Southern, but I think I'd said soup to nuts at one point, and they were like, all right, add that to the Rusty list. And I'm like, what? Soup to nuts? I mean, that's a thing, right? Isn't that what people say?
You go to the Midwest and they don't have a clue what fixin' to means.
Oh, fixin' to is up there. You get me excited.
It's just funny. I mean, and so Francis loaded up with all that regional dialect too, and so they have the same kind of stuff going on.
So I think soup to nuts, like in the old days, I think it's just an old expression is all it is, and I work with a bunch of young folks. But I think like soup is the first course, and then nuts and cheese and berries are like the final course of a meal. And so from soup to nuts means from beginning to end. And that's old Rusty's etymology. I don't know if that's right, but I'm pretty sure it's close.
No, I think that's the way I would understand it is from soup being like a mostly liquid type food to nuts being a very hard food. It's like you're cooking the project and then you want to get to that hard place, which is commercialization.
Well, that's funny. So Roger on the chat wall says, that's a saying from before his time, which he likes to talk about how
he's like
young
55.
we are. With my gray balding hair and my oh man. Anyway, Julia, last time we talked, we said it was in May 2019, nearly 2 years ago. I think you were just about to start a little 3-race deal or whatever it was in the Pinty series, and then I think as I was looking up, I was like, well, let's see if Julia's been in the news. And it's funny, if you search Julia Landauer on Google News, you'll find 2 articles next to each other. And the first one says, January 2020, racing full-time in EuroNASCAR. And then December 2020, first career podium. I thought that was super cool to show like this timeline of awesomeness. So
that's awesome.
Talk to us. How's it been?
2020 was a roller coaster because so it started off, I was super excited because, 2018 and 2019 were a little rough season-wise. It was partial racing. It's really hard to, get really consistently good results in a part-time, especially when, like, everyone's tight on budget. So they just didn't go super well. And then someone at NASCAR who had seen me in K&N and everything was like, look, I think you're going to love the Euro Series. Just give it a shot. He connected me with Anthony Kumpen, and I tested the car for the first time in December of 2019. It's super cool. It's about 2,700 pounds, so it's lighter than a K&N car, and it's less horsepower. It's 400 horsepower, but it just handles really well. There's a lot of mechanical lateral grip, so it's just really fun to drive. Signed the contract with Anthony like in December, I think, of 2019, which is like the earliest I had ever signed a contract for the next year. So like I was all ready to go cruising, and we announced in January. And then I got on the plane from Charlotte to New York to then go fly to Belgium on March 12th. And then on March 13th, I was no longer flying to Belgium.
Oh my gosh.
So it was so stressful. And then it was just stressful throughout the year because, what I learned is that the media that we're seeing about how things are going on in Europe with COVID is kind of like a little dramatic in terms of what's actually going on there. And like they were able to race, they were able to get the whole thing in. So at first I just didn't know if I was going to get over there. I didn't know if I was going to go back and forth, what it was. But I made it. I was there for 3 months. I was there exactly 90 days. Was able to drive to all the races, and it was really cool. It was an uphill battle. Those guys are very, very good, and they just, do road courses all the time. They've all been to those tracks a lot. The team was great, PK Car Sport. They, were so open with feedback and just tips for how to get around there. And then by the last weekend, which was our 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th races, all in one weekend, finally got on the podium. So I wish we had had the 3 other races that would have been for the original season, because I think they would have been really good, but it was exciting. It was fun.
Dang. I'm blown away right now. Tell us about the courses. Like, what are the different courses like? How are some of them, what sets some of them apart? Of course, we have what we call the cookie cutter tracks here stateside, But you think of road courses, and they might kind of get mixed up in your head sometimes. Back when we had 2 in the Cup Series, it was easy to say, okay, well, this is kind of Watkins Glen is kind of the super speedway of them, and that Sonoma's kind of the technical track. What are the tracks like?
Yeah, so we raced at 4 different tracks. We raced at Vallelunga in Italy. We raced at Zolder in Belgium. We then went to Croatia, which was to replace the Czech Republic, so they hadn't previously raced there. And then we went to Valencia. So I would say Vallelunga in Rome was a faster. I feel like that would be more like the super speedway analogy. It was really fast, high-speed corners. There were a few technical corners. Zolder is much more technical and lots of chicanes, and it's pretty narrow. Although some of my teammates were like, oh, yeah, you have to be careful through the chicane because, the wall is really close. Meanwhile, the wall is like 20 feet away, which is like close in road course standards, I guess. But I'm like, I'm used to the wall being right there. This is fine. You can drop wheels here and you're good. You just keep it facing forward. But we did that one in the rain, which was definitely scary. But I was so nervous before the rain race because I hadn't raced in the rain in like 12 years. And so I was super nervous, and then I did fine. And then Croatia was interesting because it was really fast, not very technical, and not a lot of passing zones. So it wasn't my favorite to race, but it was fascinating being there. And then Valencia is cool. It's a big mix of fast corners. Like you take turn 1, like you just go from 4th to 3rd gear, and I don't know the exact speed. I should, but it's fast. And then you have more technical stuff. It's off camber. In December, the sun was so low, so it was always in our eyes. It was blinding. It was scary, but it was exciting.
Wow, that's cool. How about the cars too? Then, so that's the tracks. You had mentioned 400 horsepower, but a lot of mechanical grip. What's the difference between driving that and like K&N car?
Yeah, so basically, I think the biggest thing from a handling perspective is that the K&N cars you feel like the body's rolling a little bit more through the corners, whereas in the Euro car, it feels pretty planted. Like there's a little bit of body roll because you need that, but it just felt a lot more on rails than the K&N car did. And you couldn't spin the tires as easily, obviously. But it felt nimble. It felt, it was just really cool, and it was good in the rain because the rain tires we had were extremely grippy, so that was cool. But they were just fun to drive, and they're loud, and we had full garages. Like at these road courses, they got full garages with real bathrooms. It's just like very luxurious.
Well, I think one of the things, and this is kind of coloring outside the lines a little bit, but one of the things that's so neat about watching an F1 race, when you get that freeze frame, like just one camera, really high speed, and you see an F1 car come into a corner, and it looks like they don't lift, they just turn. And that's what I saw a lot of at Daytona last weekend, was cars just not slowing down. They just turned. It's like, how did we get a stock car to do that? Right. Especially one that weighs 3,400 pounds.
Yeah, well, and to that point, though, it's kind of funny if you watch the 24 Hours of Daytona, then you watch the Cup race there. It's like, they have the DPI cars and the GTLM cars and these little cute, sporty sports cars. And then you just see the Cup cars, and it's like, oh, too wide's really as far as you want to go through turns 2 and 3. Like they look so much bigger. And they definitely went slower, obviously, but it's impressive that with so much more size and mass, they were able to still be pretty quick and pretty robust around those tracks.
Yeah. What's the competition like? Who's some of the other folks in the series that folks might have heard of or been following?
Yeah, so it's really stiff, and they break it down into EuroNASCAR Pro and EuroNASCAR 2. So I was in the 2 division, and that's what Myatt Snyder raced in 2019 when he went over there for a season. And then, so I don't know that people would know people in the EuroNASCAR 2, but it's for people who just haven't raced in the series before. So lots in Europe, it's lots of people who have done sports cars already, and maybe they were making the jump to NASCAR style stock cars, but previous champions and the people who were running up front were incredible. And then in EuroNASCAR Pro, that's where you're going to have more of the recognizable names. So my teammate Alande won the championship in Pro, and then you had I don't think he competed this year, but Jacques Villeneuve raced in that one. That's the one that Bobby Labonte went to, and Jennifer Jo Cobb actually did a few races in there. So like lots of stiff competition in both series.
That's cool.
Yeah, I remember Bobby going over there and doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit, though, and say that as I got 5th in the championship, and that is the highest for any American in the championship.
That is awesome.
I was super proud of, especially because, like, you know, over the last few years, I've been working really hard to try to move up the ladder in the U.S. and just funding's really hard to get. And you know, but it's cool to know that stat's still there.
That's America right there. I love it.
That's right. Right over here.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
I dig it. Oh, that's awesome. Well, how about that? What are the latest plans look like for Julia?
We are working on them. You know, my ideal goal would be to go back with the same team in EuroNASCAR and try to do a second year. The season just got pushed back to May because of some of the stuff with COVID there. And so we're working really hard. I'm cautiously optimistic, but can't confirm anything yet. And just, you know, constantly working hard and just I got that taste of being able to be with a really competitive team and be, you know, pretty successful for the first year. And so I just want to go back and get that win. I'd love to fight for the championship. And I think people underestimate how stressful it could be. Last year could have been for people like living away from home, right? And just like, right. You know, being on my own for 3 months. I mean, I was with kind of extended family, but it's when there's so much uncertainty and like you're not in a familiar environment, I think all of those factors definitely weighed on me and some of the other drivers that were doing the same thing. And so it would just be like, whew, let's go do this. Like, I don't have to learn the car anymore. I know what the tracks are like. Let's just go out and go fast and turn left and right. And it would be a lot of fun.
Well, that was what I was going to ask is, you know, if you grow up in North Carolina, and you want to be a race car driver and you've been to Charlotte before and maybe you've even run on the bull ring there and stuff and you just kind of grow up in that environment. When you get to Charlotte for a cup race or for, you know, a NASCAR race, it's your first NASCAR race or something, obviously the nerves and everything, but it feels familiar at least. I've been here, I've gone through this tunnel, I've done all this stuff. What's it like showing up in Croatia or in Belgium? You know, first time, like, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff I've never seen before. How cool is this? Oh, I got to go race.
Yeah, well, so twofold. One, I grew up in New York, so basically every racing I had done up to this point was kind of unfamiliar, you know, okay. Like racing go-karts, and I was racing in like Dousman, Wisconsin. I had not seen Wisconsin before, and so it was totally different than New York. So kind of used to that. And the fact that so much of Europe was in a lockdown while I was there meant that any kind of sightseeing was a little limited. But I think like some of the little things are like, you know, hotels do breakfast differently in Europe. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm used to eating before a day at the track may or may not have been available. And just, you know, the whole structure of how things are done. And it was interesting this year because we had to stay in our own kind of like COVID bubbles. And so you could really only be with your team, and it was a virtual drivers meeting. And, you know, there just wasn't a whole lot of interacting with other people. So like it took until the end of the season to know who what some of my competitors looked like. Like I knew their name, I knew their number, and I could have looked them up online, but I wasn't that curious, I guess. But it's like, normally you're just so used to the camaraderie and getting to know people, and there wasn't very much of that. So it was weird.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so we dealing with that a little bit, or at least I guess I'm dealing with that a little bit at where I work, because I showed up after mask protocol was already the standard. Mm-hmm. So there's people that I work with that I still don't know what they look like.
Oh, yeah. Right.
You know, and it's learning like what your facial body language is. Like, you know, your eyes tell a lot about what you're thinking and what kind of like mood you're in, but your face it tells you even more, because you know, you learn to like focus on a lot more minor behavior than you would if, you know, you had a full open face interaction with somebody. So it's been interesting from that perspective, because, you know, I'm learning a whole bunch of new people, kind of like you in your racing series. Like, Well, I think I know who this person is, but I don't even really know what they look like. I don't know what their mannerisms are. I don't know what it looks like when they talk.
Yeah.
Like, like I hear the noise, but I don't know, like we all have our different way that we enunciate things. And, my lips don't move when I talk. It's nobody, you can't read my lips, not really, because they don't really get far apart enough for it to happen. But you can see when I smile because it gets really big, but you can't see that behind a mask.
Yeah. That was tough.
Yeah. That's no, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. You know what? I was thinking about it at my own work recently. Just that exactly what you said. There's some folks that I feel like when I'm on a Zoom call with somebody sitting at the desk next to me, I like get more out of it than if I were to have a face to face right now, which is a strange thing because face to face, of course, we all have masks on. So yeah, it's that's funny. Julie, are you planning on going to any races this year?
As a
fan or cup, like any cup race kind of things?
No, I'm not sure. I sat out Daytona just partially because I had traveled. I'm not going to complain about this, but just like after everything in Europe and getting back and coming back in New Year, and just I decided to sit that one out. I don't really know what the protocol is for a lot of tracks, but if there's something I can drive to, I'm still limiting how much air travel I do. Sure. Having said that, I flew across the Atlantic Ocean twice. So, I'm doing what I have to do. But I don't know, I'd like to, I'd love to get to Bristol again for both of them, both the dirt and the asphalt. It's just, that's such a classic favorite of mine. And if I could do Martinsville, but I'll be honest, I need to look into it more because I'm a little behind. I just hadn't gotten that far.
So being a road course. Oh, go ahead, Sherwin.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, now that I'm in Mooresville, I'm like, okay, I have a lot closer access to more tracks than I used to living in Atlanta. And I'm like starting to plan stuff with people that are like from this area, this northern Charlotte area. And I don't know what the rules are, but it's like, well, we got to make a plan. And if the plan doesn't work out, then we don't go.
Yeah.
But if you can go, I'm like, we should probably try to figure this out. Cause like Atlanta, for instance, they're trying to attract people into the infield by offering $75 tickets to just be in the infield all weekend. I'm like, that is probably the most value ticket in NASCAR right now. Cause you get 3 races and you get to be on the infield. That's usually a place where we would do media stuff. But it's like, I don't know. This, are we going to go? I mean, it's like 3 weeks away. So it's, but we get another one in July. So, maybe by then.
That'll be toasty.
It'll be warm.
It don't get cold in Atlanta in July as it turns out.
We'll have to rent an RV with some air conditioning.
That's right. I'll be honest, like along those lines, like I've never been envious of them having to go to Daytona in July. Like I can't even.
Yeah,
I've been once, and it was hot.
He does not thrive in those conditions, and so I like try to avoid, or I'm like the awkward one with a big brim hat and like almost like all the white sunscreen. Like I don't thrive in those conditions.
Well, it's funny with a little bit of age, you start to stop liking being sunburnt. And I think Rusty figured that out when we turned about 30.
Mm-hmm.
And we just stopped coming home from the racetrack just cooked like a lobster. I'm like, man, I'm just going to put on sunscreen because that being sunburnt shit sucks.
Right. Yeah.
Honestly, after it happened on Survivor and my face peeled off, game changer for sunscreen use for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Never took it for granted again.
What's the old golf saying? Oh yeah, I shoot in the lower 80s. If it gets any hotter, I won't play.
Yeah.
Julia, with so many road courses under your belt, what are your thoughts on this season in NASCAR in the Cup Series? 7 road courses that we're going to, 1 under our belt so far. What is it? Were you all excited when you saw the schedule, or what was your thought?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Like and NASCAR fans might not love this, but like super speedways are fun to watch. I definitely enjoy them, and those intermediates are cool. But I have the most fun watching the shorter tracks and the road courses, and some of the mile 1.5s. I just think it breeds really exciting racing, and it's different. And the thing that I think people underestimate is that the racing on a road course is so different than on an oval. Like how you set up a pass is different. How you let the car, a looser car is, you have more freedom because there aren't walls right there. And so it's a very different mentality. And so I think it's really cool that on such a long season, they break it up and they, force the drivers to really excel in both of them. And because like there are people, I was surprised at how hard it was to jump back into road courses after having been on ovals for so long. And the guys in the Euro Series were like, look, we're champions in this series and we suck on ovals. Like it's so different. And so the fact that the Cup Series is now forcing, the best of the best to really adapt to those different situations, especially throw in some rain on some of those road courses. I think it brings excitement, and I'm 100% for this schedule.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last week about how it's easy to get into this sport, like to break into it as a fan watching like the Daytonas and the Talladegas, because there's just, it feeds your brain nonstop attention. You got this beehive of cars just running around. And then you start to understand the more technical aspects of it. You start to understand the physics of the way the car works and blah, blah, blah. And then I started driving a stick shift full time in like 2006 and learning how to transmission brake. And I'm like, you know what? I think I really like these road courses. There's something about this that's fun, and I've pushed all the limits. I mean, I don't know when the last time you were in Atlanta was, but a few years ago, they finished the on-ramp from 400 South to go back up to I-85 North. And it's cambered and everything. I did it at 95 miles an hour, and I'm like, man, I could have done that faster.
Yeah, I drive that one every day right now. Now that the roads are pretty clear on the way back from work, and I lament every time there's somebody in front of me because there's no.
I'll deliberately slow down.
Right, right. Just sandbag it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think Julia said it right though. The excitement, and I would say the hype for every race now. It really feels like with the diversity of tracks that we have, especially with these 7 road courses, that last week, of course, Daytona 500. It's Daytona 500. You got to get excited for that, and it was a shame that it went past midnight and whatnot. And then it was like, well, next week we got a road course. Ooh, road course, sweet. And then now we're going to talk next week, and it's like, oh, we're back to Miami. We're doing circle drive. Oh, sweet. Can't wait to see that. Like, everything feels fresh and new instead of like, okay, we're doing Atlanta and Texas and Charlotte and Kentucky and Kansas all in a row, and you're like, okay.
I think that diversity in the schedule really, it just helps to keep that excitement and potentially, interest new people. And if you can stagger that and then like bring more, it expands. It's like a ripple effect. So yeah, I totally agree.
So let's switch gears for a moment since we're all STEM nerds here. And I got to throw some shout out to the Mars rover stuff. Did y'all watch the videos? Like, I've seen all of, quote unquote, all of the like renderings of this is how the little spaceship thing is going to let the space elevator thing go down and then fly off and whatever. And you see all those and it's like, okay, I kind of get it. And then you see the actual video from it and you go, whoa, I didn't get it. This is so much like real life, obviously it's so much different than the renderings and all that, as close as they can get it. Just seeing that happen and knowing that that's happening like for real. I was like that choked up kind of like cheering kind of like, yeah, awesome. So.
I'm looking at a picture of Jupiter right now, and I'm like, this is amazing. I don't even know what to say. And the fact that it can broadcast video from a place that took 5 years to get to, like that is, that's hard to comprehend for a human being.
Right.
Oh yeah, just the whole scale and scope of it. And I think also like it's something so much bigger than ourselves, right? And I think especially after this last year that we've had, it's like we need that kind of unifying,
The world needed this.
cool, bigger than any one human, like bigger than any one element of science. It really is so much coming together in a feat that's almost unimaginable. And I think that is so cool.
I think I watched like an hour-long video yesterday on the drone or helicopter, or whatever you want to call it, that they've got out there too. And this thing, just to even fly on a planet that has 1/10 the Earth's atmosphere is insane. Like they were saying that it spins or the blades spin at like 2,900 RPM. And on Earth, any helicopter does about 500 RPM. So it's like spinning 5 times as fast, 6 times as fast on the blades. And then the whole contraption, and I mean, it's huge. It's, as wide as it's probably got a 6-foot wingspan, but the whole thing weighs like 4 pounds. And, it made me think, how in the world did they do that, number one? And then I answered my own question by going, well, when you have, when you start a project in the for-profit space like me and Sherwin are in, you have a budget. Well, if they come to you and go, okay, what's the budget? And they go, nah, just we need it really, really light. Okay, gotcha.
Like an engineer's dream, I feel like no financial limitations to how you can build, just make it the absolute best as possible.
Right. I was sitting at my work today, and there was like this little Wi-Fi glitch of some sort, and I looked, and I had like 1.5 megabytes download or megabits download at the time or something. And I mean, it was horrific, and IT fixed it and all that, so it was fine. But I was laughing because I had remembered that apparently the video feed because they have a satellite that goes around Mars. And they send video feed from the rovers and the helicopter stuff up to the satellite, which then beams it back to Earth at 2 megabits per second. And I'm like, man, they're sending signals from outer space faster than Rusty's got Wi-Fi at work. What's going on here, guys?
Come on, IT, we gotta do better than this.
And it's like they don't even have an IT team on Mars. It's just a bunch of robots and somebody with a Nintendo controller sitting in Houston or Cape Canaveral, wherever they're at. It's like, yeah, I mean, we had to kill a call this morning because the Wi-Fi in the mill that I work in just took a dump and nobody could hear anybody talking. We're like, yeah, we'll just try it again tomorrow.
Oh, man. So, well, let's do it. Let's talk some weekend NASCAR. Here we go with the teardown. On the PTM report card, first period, course, Daytona Road Course, Christopher Bell. How about that mess? that was wild and crazy. Julia, I'll tell you that race, I don't know even how to say it. I haven't seen cars and drivers just go all out like that in such a long time, it feels like. And I mean, I know we've got the other road courses and stuff, but boy, this one just felt like they're every corner. They're hopping over the
turtles.
Yeah, they're on 2 wheels on every corner. They're hitting each other just haphazardly. It was just bonkers. I was like, well, maybe the next one will be a figure 8 track. I don't know, but this is crazy. What'd you think?
It was messy. It was definitely messy.
Okay.
One of the things that I also wonder, like, how much of it is also like pent up anger from how the 500 went, because like so many people didn't thrive during that race. So like, kind of not even intentional, but like, all right, enough of this bullshit. We got to go finish this race. And then it doesn't work. And also I think, obviously they don't get a lot of practice, and they had the clash obviously, but it's like the beginning of the season was very minimal on track time, remembering how much the brake pads wear out and they get hot, and and especially in those cars, like our brakes, and they're different obviously, but you got to maintain them, and just like tempers flared. It was good. I think, there are a couple of cautions that I thought maybe we could have done without, but I also, cautions are fun because they bring the whole field back together and make for a really exciting turn 1, especially at the Daytona Road Course. Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, I think one of the things that NASCAR may learn going forward, and they may even adjust for this, is Do we really need a stage break at road courses? Maybe we do for the sake of television, and I'll just be okay with that if that's the case. But yeah, to your point, like if you think about the Clash, I mean, Blaney's out there running up front, and his rotors are coming apart. Like there's sparks and fire and everything going everywhere. And we said last week, it said we only had to run 125 miles, so we only built 125 miles worth of race car. So go get it.
Right.
Yeah.
What did that look like, Julia, compared to the road racing that you do? Was it were you looking at him going, "You idiots! You got to like looking at Joey Logano or somebody just completely roasting their brakes and being like, well, you know what's going to happen now."
Yeah, no, definitely not idiots. Because because especially it depends on the competition, right? If everyone's right there and you got to push it, you got to push it. And ours is a little different because we had 35-minute races, so there were no pit stops, and we also have a rule that you're not allowed to make like explicit contact, and you get penalized for hitting people. If it's a racing incident, it's very clearly a racing incident, like on the start. That's fine. But if you knock someone off the track and it costs them position, or if you dive bomb someone and it goes sour, like you get penalized and you get black flag, or you get a drive through, or you get points, time taken off or laps taken off the end. So we are forced to, I don't want to say use more craft, but we have to cleanly execute passes. Still aggressive, still side-by-side racing. But that's something that's so amazing about the Euro guys is like, it's just side by side, not making contact for laps. And so I think that's something where it's a little different with American NASCAR. You can knock someone out for the win and be just fine, which I have mixed feelings about, I'll be honest.
I was going to ask you that about what the dichotomy is and where the middle ground may or may not be. But I was listening to Jerry Glanville, who used to coach the Atlanta Falcons, on the Dale Jr. Download. And he was talking about how, so when he was racing Busch back in the 90s, Ernie Elliott, who's Bill Elliott's brother, was building his motor. And he said, I don't want to see you run into a car on the racetrack. He said, because I'm going to build you a motor that's going to allow you to not ever have to hit somebody. It's going to be that much better.
Yeah.
But that's, of course, when oval racing was king in NASCAR.
But overall, like to that point, I think, and this is something that, like, especially because I started in go-karts and formula cars where you can't make contact, right? Like you destroy both your cars if you make contact. I think it's more impressive if you're able to, like, maybe some beating and banging, but if you have to make a pass without crashing the person, I think that shows a lot more skill. So then I remember, like, watching some NASCAR races and you see people in second just explicitly knock someone out and you got to do it for the win. And that's what they say afterwards. And I get that that's a mindset. I just think it doesn't show as much craft. And if you can't pass them, but then it's also like that's part of the culture of NASCAR. So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. You have really exciting racing if you allow that, but you also have really exciting racing if you need people to stay clean, and it's just like, gotta be really, really good about it. So
let me sneak another one in here before we run you out of here, Julia. So Hailie Deegan obviously brings a ton of attention to the sport. Particularly being a female, that is obviously an important thing that we need to be focused on in NASCAR is increasing our diversity. But her only wins in a NASCAR related stock car are exactly what you just said. She was running number 2 and ran into number 1 and won the race. And so there's a lot of negative attention on that. And it does it matter or no? I don't know. What's your perspective? Because you were probably once that 19-year-old girl was in a race car and people are like, why is this girl here racing?
Totally. Well, we always get that question. And, Hailie and I talked about it because she joined Bill McAnally right after I left. And so I think, one, she's always competitive and upfront. So I think that's good. Like, that she's fast, that she has skill. But I go back, I think it's, and she's not the only one, like plenty of other, like the one I was referencing was, I remember I watched Kyle Larson, who's a phenomenal driver, don't get me wrong, but I watched him knock someone out of the lead in Cup. And after the race, he was just like, that's what you got to do. So, you got to do what you got to do to win to a certain extent, but I stand by what I said, that personally how I drive and how I like to race is to, get the pass more or less cleanly. And I like that racing. And some of the most fun that I had in go-karts was when you could race someone else really, really hard. And like, you're nervous, you're making a little bit of contact, but like more or less not destroying the other person's race. And it's so satisfying when you can do that. So that's my style. It's not everyone's style. And I've talked with team owners who are like, doesn't matter if they knock people out. If they win the race, they win the race. And so I think it comes down to personal preference. And maybe that'll hurt me in the future, but that's kind of how I feel.
Well, so here's the other thing I'll add, and I'm sorry to shut you off, Rusty, because we're going to get some time to talk after
We're
this.
good.
But so Rusty and I kind of got into really together as fans together going to races, being a fan of Casey Kane. And one of the things that we lamented about him is that it didn't look like he would get mad, but you would never see him do something to another driver, even if he got done dirty. What we see with Chase, and I've been following Chase since he was about 10, and so now I'm kind of all in on that, and Rusty's pretty close to the mark there too, is if you do him dirty, you getting done dirty back. Like, that's going to happen.
Southernisms.
There you go. You're gonna get done dirty back.
I agree with you on that one. I mean, I really believe like you race people the way you want to be raced. And once someone proves that they have no problem knocking you out, and that's something I will also say to Haley is, and she and I have talked about this, like the guys move us out of the way a lot more quickly than trying to pass us clean. And that's something spotters say. That's something the team owners have noticed. Like, no one wants to get beat by the girls still. So there's a lot more blocking and more moving out of the way. So part of that is that like, it might be that you just, I was never in a position to fight for a win. I got second in K&N, but I was never in second for the win. So I don't know, and maybe that's what you have to do. And so, but it's, I don't know, you race how you want to be raced. And I think like one of the examples is Derek Kraus, and he for the most part races pretty cleanly. So, but again, it's personal preference and what legacy you want to have on the track.
I like the way you put it too, in that it's so much more fun to race like that. I think of in my very short career doing the silly go-kart stuff with Sherwin and an old friend of ours as well. And there's two things that stick out in my mind. One is the complete yard sale that me and Sherwin had, and we've talked about on the show before, where I just broadsided him at about 45 miles an hour. But the other one that I can think of, our friend Canis, who was behind me at the time, and he's way better driver than me. I mean, he did some racing before, but I was ahead of him, and I was trying to hold him off, and he's racing me completely clean, and like you said, maybe a little bump here in the corner, maybe something just to, hey, I'm here, hey, I'm here, hey, I'm here, and then it was everything I could do, and I'm talking about the slightest little mess up, and he was gone. He was right by me, and I was like, man, that was and it was so much fun to try to hold him off, and then you make that mistake, and even though you do, you're still like, golly, I got to get it back, and going back after. He was way better than me anyway, so he was off to the races.
Well, and you always want to win, but I mean, and for me personally, part of what I love about racing so much is the art of it, and the art of putting together the perfect laps, and the art of setting up and having the strategy to execute a perfect pass. And so, and that's just something I like romanticize about racing, because I do. Mm-hmm. That's what I like about it. And so that's a big element for me personally, and I'm sure that was partially an element for Casey Kane as well. And you see the handful of drivers that just really won't. Now, that being said, like if you're at the absolute limit, like I feel there are times when I watch Casey Kane and like I'd be like, you can nudge him a little bit more, like, you can bump him a little bit getting into turn one, and he never did. So I think there's like nothing's black and white.
Right. So for the third week in a row, which means even before this whole thing started, Rusty's talking playoffs again, and. And we got
two drops in the bucket now.
Right. We got Christopher Bell, Michael McDowell. It's shaping up to be an interesting, 26 weeks of racing leading into that, and we keep talking about could be the first time we see a winner not make it into the playoffs. I was about to say into the chase, as if I'm 10 years ago, but. But yeah, it's really opening it up. That's the other thing that this I think the road course stuff does, and starting off with a super speedway and then a road course. I mean, we're rolling the dice back and forth. It's an interesting shape of the season, Julia.
It's been spicy. Yeah, it's going to continue to be, I think. And I was reading, there was a tweet somewhere about how the drivers who are typically like on the bubble probably feel a lot more pressure to perform soon and to perform consistently because they may not even have that opportunity if they don't win a race. So yeah, pressure. That's why they get paid the big bucks, to deal with the pressure.
Right,
you know?
Right. The Newmans and the Dillons of the world are looking at those first two races going, huh.
Yeah. I think I can squeeze in there a little bit, maybe get some points in some other races and, roll a dice, be in the playoffs and do something.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to make crew chiefs are going to make some very interesting decisions about, trying to, I mean, they've been making aggressive track position decisions ever since this whole new format started, but like really aggressive decisions. But it's already should be forcing their hand to go, okay, there's 24 races left. We did have a 15 race winning season, and there was only one car that was one that you wouldn't expect to win. I think it was Almirola in the 43 before he moved over to Stuart Haas. And it was like, oh, wow, we have 15. We almost got to the mark. Because Rusty and I have been chasing this thing forever. We're like, man, I'm so tired of this win and you're in thing. I want to hear him have to say win and you might be in.
Right.
2021.
There you go. Well, Julia, we know we got to let you go. We appreciate it so much hanging out with us. It's been a blast, and let's make it not another 2 years. Even if you're going off to Europe again here soon, which we'll cross our fingers for you and everything, and we're rooting you on. And bring back the gold trophy for old USA.
That's right. No, I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Love to come back and enjoy the rest of the show.
Love it.
Yeah,
Thank you very
maybe
much.
For your PhD episode, we can get a little bit more nerdy.
Sounds good. I'm here for it.
Julia, take care. Thank you so much.
Bye. Have a good night.
See ya. But, ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't mean the show is over. We're going to continue having some fun here, Sherwin. I've got some, I'll say, coloring outside the lines thing to talk about. A few of them. Do you hear about Suarez?
I did not, and I was going to jump back in the notes, but go ahead and start because I can find them quick.
Suarez blew a motor with 15 to go, and I don't mean like his car had issues. I mean the other blew a motor. Did you hear about this?
I did. He barfed inside his helmet.
He barfed his helmet. Oh my gosh! And then, by the way, everyone, he barfed his helmet, and then with 10 to go, he was in 34th, and he finished 16th. Like he better than doubled his position after barfing the helmet.
Yeah, that's perseverance right there, buddy.
I tell you what, I meant to,
especially in a closed-faced helmet, like like it's all over you at that point.
That's some jackass stuff right there, isn't it? That's horrific. 15 laps on this course, and you gotta keep running. There's like
that's like 60 miles.
There's barf sloshing around in your helmet. I'm gonna die.
Because you can't take it off, and it fits form-fitting around your so the barf is just in there. And if it's not like he got scared by something and just kind of a little bit. He was sick, and he just unleashed his stomach inside of his helmet.
Oh my God.
I'm like, could he see? Like, I don't
know.
Like, what?
How projectile was it under the? Oh my gosh, I'm losing it. This is it's hilarious.
This is where it goes, y'all.
Oh, good on him.
Did I lose you or did you lose me?
I think
there we go.
I got you.
PTM doing his thing.
Yeah, I was.
All right, well, that's a good time for me to fill up on some more Fireball.
Have at it. So I was laughing, thinking. I lament that we had to let Julia go. I was going to ask her if she's ever barfed a helmet.
We might have had a full lockdown on this deal.
Well, it's pretty wild, man. Anyway, so let's see, what was the other thing? Oh, I wanted to talk about. Did you see all those caricatures that they put up of the drivers? And maybe they did it for the 500, and I wasn't paying attention. But me and the wife were sitting there watching the road course, and they keep putting up these. It's not pictures of the drivers; it's like the drawings of them. I don't know if people have been talking about this, but we were laughing so hard because they gave Denny like. Through his suit, they gave him like a 12-pack abs that were, and my wife's just screaming, Denny don't have those abs. Are you kidding me? Come on. And then somebody else, I think it was Christopher Bell's picture. I mean this in the nicest way. It was the derpiest looking picture you've ever seen. Just this, like, it was.
Well, so it's funny you mentioned that because Denny caught wind of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty soon into that picture getting posted.
Okay.
And he goes, it's not the first time my muscles have bulged out of my fire suit. And it's him leaning in his window and his butt just like right there, like he's really been doing his squats or something. Like it's just butt. So people have been talking about his butt all over Twitter for 3 days.
Oh my gosh. That was some of the funniest stuff, and we were waiting. They would be like, "All right, now we're going to go talk about Kyle Larson." We're like, "Wait for it," and the picture come up, and I mean, we just bust out laughing. We were having a blast at the pictures. So good on them. It was in terms of entertainment factor. I don't know if they were going for like, it looked like they were going for kind of like hero-esque, but they totally missed the mark and made it look like I don't know, derpy. Bodybuilders. It was fantastic.
Well, so you know what they should do is they should hire the artist that did all of Jeff Foxworthy's illustrations with all those really, no neck and big old chin and nose and beard maybe or whatever. Just like,
do some characters.
Exactly what you would think out of hearing Jeff Foxworthy talk like that. Oh yeah, that guy. I got it. It's like the redneck version of Far Side.
Right. We were joking that like for every position back you are, they should add 5 pounds to your caricature. So like if you're in first, you're superhero. If you're back in 10th, you're portly. I mean, not too bad. You got 50 pounds over the top of being super cut, so you're probably all right. If you're back in 30th, you're just a big old fat ass. It would be hilarious.
I was going to say, you could have like Chris Pratt on the pole, and then like 28th is like George Costanza.
Right. Have that fun. That'd be awesome. So anyway, that's the caricature stuff. I had a blast.
Or what is George Costanza? Jason Alexander.
Jason Alexander. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Make him bald. Like just really
bald, fat.
Oh man, are we having fun tonight or what? I'm having a blast.
This is good, man. This is. It takes us a little while to build up to one of these where it gets a little bit off the rails, kind of.
Oh man, we got barfing helmets and fat ass drivers. Where are we going?
And we still got Homestead to talk about and whatever else. I don't even know.
I was going to talk about. Right quick. How about Ty Gibbs? 18 years old. He's coach's grandson. Secures 14 more races after winning Xfinity. We talked about it a little bit in what I'll call the pre-show. It was just me and you kind of chatting, but I was like, man, the competition that we have talked about in the Xfinity series and all the attention and all the hype around the drivers and everything, for somebody to come out from nowhere and take a W at the road course, that's amazing. So good on Ty Gibbs. That was pretty freaking crazy.
Good for him. There's always a circumstance with every race. Not every, you never see a race anymore hardly where somebody leads every single lap. But the only way to win is to be in position to do it. And damn if he didn't. And that pass where I don't even know if he meant to do it, but he went flying through the grass, didn't even lose a spot. And that's, that's like hero stuff. If you look back in NASCAR history and that whole Earnhardt and Bill Elliott thing at Charlotte. So it's like,
yes.
Man, this kid's already put a lot of this stuff together. And like to have that 14 race schedule come together that fast suggests that it's not, nobody thinks that was luck. They're like, Oh, well, this kid can race. Maybe we should give him, some more shots at this.
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty cool. And over to the truck series. How about Ben Rhodes? I mean, King of Daytona here, taking the 500 and the road course. He's obviously, I mean, that pretty much secures you, already into playoff territory and stuff. I know it's a whole rule set and all that to get there, but dang, this kid's out. I don't know, ready to roll.
Well, so let's take a step back a little bit just for a second, because I know that I was probably a little hypercritical of Austin Cindric in the way he managed his race, the Xfinity race, because he already had the win, on the oval track, and he still chose to wipe out Allmendinger when really he still was going to get 9 championship points if he just moves down to the apron or lifts. And it's like, so why did you make that decision to tear up your car and your competitor's car when it was stage 1? Like, why is that the right decision?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe he learned something from that. Maybe he didn't. But all he did was, and I've defended him a lot on this whole nepotism deal with his dad being the manager on the Indy side of Penske, and said, okay, we're going to move this guy to the Wood Brothers car next year. They fired De Benedetto. He's out. Cindric's in next year. And it's like, you've already made, like, week 2, you made a whole bunch of enemies of people who would have rooted for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuff sort of kind of matters. And it's like, AJ come out of the depths of despair into being somebody that everybody wants to root for. He's great on television. And it's like, why did you do that? Yeah. Okay. Moved him down. Okay. That's racing. Earnhardt would have done that.
Yeah. What would Earnhardt do? What would Redneck Jesus do?
Earnhardt would have ran your ass all the way into the damn pit road.
Right.
Just to beat you to that line.
Yeah,
so it's like, what are we even talking about?
He doesn't want the extra 5 pounds on the caricature.
Well, you know what? And he ended up costing himself the race too because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And because he had the second best car, he wrecked the best car. He had the second best car, and the third best car won the race.
Mm-hmm. But still, I mean, like you said, got to be there to win it, and he's there. Good on him.
Yeah, I'm happy for him, man. That's cool. And I've heard, people say that Ty's a little bit hard to deal with. Hopefully, it's just that teenager stuff that we all went through when we were that age. I mean, can you imagine being on that stage as an 18-year-old?
No, I
certainly couldn't.
I cannot. Maybe I could as an 18-year-old and thought, yeah, I got this. And then, the second you turn 30 and you're like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? So.
Well, I think you hear every time you hear Joey do a long form interview, he says some similar stuff to that. He's like, I didn't know what I was doing when I was 18, 19 years old. He's like, I knew I could race, but damn, it took him till he was 25 to get it really sorted out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we know that for the most part, us boys, we don't really mature until we're about 30, 32.
Right. I've only been like an adult for about 5-6 years, y'all.
I believe that wholeheartedly.
Right.
I've only been an adult for about 8 years.
Right. Well, Sherwin, let's do some adult stuff. Gas it up. Here we go. There it is. Sherwin, in the lap traffic fantasy, I am now 45th and you are 61st. We suck at this in so many ways that I can't even describe. One, it's like way past the deadline, and Brandon is texting me and you. It's not like me or you are behind on this. He's texting like, hey boys, don't forget to get your picks in. We're both like, yeah, man, we suck. We're terrible. And then we finished like DFL. We're doing awful. Although I'll say this, I think we're in the top 50%, but still, like, as if we have it. If you ever thought we had any clue what we were doing, no, we just record ourselves talking NASCAR. So,
I mean, I'm not making bad picks based on what the rule set is. I'm just not getting the luck to go with it. I mean, by all means Blaney should not have been a 24th place driver or whatever he was on Sunday. They just showed up with trash.
Right. And which one of us is going to break one of the rules first, too? Because I know there's all these rules set, and I ain't sure I've read them all on the lap traffic.
Well, the thing Brandon's going to run into is that his rule is they couldn't have run for points and made the playoffs last year, which means Christopher Bell, you can pick every single week. AJ Allmendinger, you can pick every single week.
Right.
It goes on from there.
Finding the loopholes here. I'm digging it. I'm in. I'll play the robotic one.
I mean, I didn't pick Chase for Daytona because I was like, well, Blaney's pretty damn good there too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to save Chase for I don't know, somewhere else.
Right.
Right. I mean, Larson wasn't in the points or the playoffs this past year, so you could pick him every week.
True.
Everybody's probably going to pick him for Homestead, so which means we probably ought to consider picking somebody else so that you get off script there.
That's a good point. Well, to round it out, last week, Ricky Mast picked Chase, who finished 21st. You picked Blaney, who ended up 15th. I picked Ross, who came out with a very respectable 39th, DFL +1. Oopsies.
He didn't have he was probably going to finish 13th, 12th.
Right.
I mean, it was supposed to have been a good day.
Right. Well, I'll say this. These are not the picks that I sent to Lap Traffic either. So I think I sent Chase in as my pick. So I gained 18 spots by not sending that one in. So it is time to pick for Miami. And Sherwin, I had already written it down before you said all this. I went ahead and said Larson. I mean, come on. I gotta throw that out there as if I know what I'm talking about. And I might even put that in for Lap Traffic Fantasy, but I like your idea of that's who everybody's going to pick, so why would I, right? Like, maybe there's a Harvick choice here. Maybe there's, it could be something we've never heard of before. Who knows? But I'm going Larson for the PTM pick. What you got, Sherwin?
You know what? I didn't even think about it, so I'm going to talk a little bit and think in my mind about who I want to pick about Homestead, knowing what we know about it being very similar to Atlanta in a lot of ways. So I think I'm going to pick Tyler Reddick.
I love it. Awesome pick. Yes.
Yep. I'm going to pick Tyler Reddick.
And from what we've seen in the first two races, which, I mean, they're not necessarily a litmus test here, but, there's lots of names to choose from. This whole, there's only 10 cars that can win thing, especially with this season, with all the whatever rules and the track and the tracks that we're going to and all that. I mean, the pool of those, quote unquote 10 folks is now, like we said in the playoff segment, more like 20. And
I would totally agree with you. And I think we're going to get our first shot at a true mile and a half, like NASCAR style oval race with no horse crap going on with the motors and stuff. And, it's going to be different. It's who's going to show up with the goods. And we're probably not going to practice. We're probably not going to qualify. So it's run it off the truck and see what happens.
Yes, sir. There you go, Tyler Reddick. And Sherwin, with that, let's close this thing out. Why don't you tell the folks where they can find you and what's going on?
Okay, well, you can find me at Pregame Engineer on Twitter and at Andrew Show on Instagram. And you can find us at PTM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. And guess what? Today, I launched a TikTok account for PTM Podcast.
Nice.
So why not, right?
You're on the TikTok, side parts and skinny jeans and whatnot.
It's going to be cussing and redneckery is what it's going to end up being.
There you go. Well, y'all know where to find us. He said it, PTMpodcast.com, at PTM Podcast on Twitter. As always, I'm Rusty Wallace at Tailgate Mayor. Can't wait to talk to y'all next week after Miami. It's going to be a blast. See you then. That's a wrap.
Oh, we got some AD. Some After Dark.
After Dark. Let's do it. Dude.
All right, y'all in the wall over there. Y'all start firing some stuff up that y'all know we don't talk about during the thing, so we can do this. But otherwise, we're just going to run our mouths. What you got to say, Rusty?
Dude, the barf in the helmet thing might be my favorite thing since sliced bread or whatever you want to say. I absolutely...
It's the best thing since Smoke shit his pants and won the race at Watkins Glen.
Oh my gosh, barfing the helmet and crapping your pants. All of it. Man, I can't help but love it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean there, and the fact that he still had to run almost 60 miles of racing going right and left with barf just sloshing around in his helmet.
That's the best part. Oh man.
He's lucky he could breathe.
Right, right.
You know,
like, at some point, at what point does it, like, how much barf does it take before you got to, like, take one for the team and re-ingest so that you can finish the race so you can breathe?
Right, so you can breathe. Oh, I bet there was some of that went on. Oh, I have definitely choked back a full barf before. That is not fun.
Full barf. I know exactly what you mean when you say full
like
barf.
Your face swells up like a chipmunk and you're like, I have nowhere to put this, so I must swallow it all back down. This is going to suck.
Worst day of my life. Oh my gosh. That's fantastic. I mean, you know, that's a story now for him forever and ever. Amen. Right.
Yeah. You know, I want him to have a good run so they can just be proud of that and not have to talk about the barfing thing. Cause that's probably going to be that's going to be some sticking power to that. Right? Yeah. That's going to end up on the Dale Jr. download. All right. We've got Daniel Suarez in today to talk about how he barfed up his helmet.
And what happens when you take it off? Is it like dumping water over your chest or something?
Oh my God, it's gotta be.
And you gotta pull the whole thing off. So you know there's like a second there where you gotta hold. It's terrible.
I mean, it's absolutely hilarious.
Yes,
is what it is.
Yes. If you don't like that, then you know what can I say?
PTM you gotta laugh at this stuff. It's if you can't laugh at it, then you're not enjoying it to the fullest extent of the availability of the entertainment.
Right. I should really go ahead and send Brandon my picks for next week, but I also really want him to like text us both and be like, guys, come on.
It is kind of funny. He sent me a text during the show saying, hey, let me know if YouTube actually uploads for you, because apparently Apple is they are currently barfing in their helmet.
Well, I got the same text. So what had happened is apparently Podbean is having an issue with a DDoS attack is what it's called. And so they're dealing with that, and so they're not able to hook up to iTunes. Now, here's what will be interesting. I do not use Podbean to hook up to iTunes. I use something else. So it will be interesting to see if and the reason I did that was for redundancy, so that I'm not dependent on Podbean. So it should be interesting here in 35 seconds when this thing is done, when it's done encoding, and then it takes a couple minutes to upload, but then after that I should be able to put it online.
You know it's funny you mentioned that, because somebody reached out to me that does a podcast probably not all that dissimilar to what we're doing, and they had reached out to somebody else about like what software they were using, et cetera, and maybe they were running on a little bit more of a shoestring budget than we are, which is fine, because we still don't spend very much money on this, even though there is some money involved. But I said, well, we use this, and this, and I've never refused anyone information about how I understand that we do it. And like, evidently there was a bad exchange there about, I don't know, you know how people be doing. And I was like, I don't know why would you care? Like, if you think you've got a good product, why would you care if somebody else is doing the same thing? I mean, Joe Rogan's not calling up other comedians going, why the hell are you doing a podcast?
Right.
You know? I
Yeah.
mean, that stuff's not happening. I mean, it's the same reason why we've befriended so many. I mean, hell, there's probably 25 fan-based NASCAR podcast handles that follow us on Twitter, and it's like, yeah, whatever you need, I ask whatever you just ask me the question, and I'll answer it if I know the answer. I'll find the answer if I don't. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
this is your toy, and if I can help make it easier for you to have fun, then I'll certainly do that.
Yeah. So, point is, we self-host our Apple connection and all that. So I've got that running through a whole different deal. So, like I said, it's about a third of the way done uploading. Once that's done, then I'll be able to put it online, and we can make fun of Brandon.
Well, we should always make fun of Brandon.
Well, there's that.
I mean, that's sort of part of the game, really. I don't know that he'll end up watching this YouTube, but I know he'll listen.
Right,
but this won't be on the iTunes audio. But
his penance for us doing so terribly is that I'm not going to make picks until he texts me now. So
that's right, and we're not going to make Xfinity or trucks picks on the show because we never have. Right. And I don't want to. I only want to pick Cup on the show. That's the way I want to keep doing it.
Oh man.
Because otherwise it gets absurd, and you want to differentiate yourself a little bit from what other people are doing, particularly if they're your friends. You're like, okay, well he's got the fantasy thing and the gambling thing. Like, okay, we were doing this whole other thing over here where we're talking about helmets getting barfed in and blowing up sticks of dynamite and whatever it is we're talking about. And it's just you want to be a different thing, but it's not because we're choosing to be different. We just have a different approach. That's really all it amounts to, right? It's like, this is what our personalities are, and so this is what the result ends up being.
It's all good. But let's see. We're close to done uploading. We'll see how it goes. Come on, that's like the 98%, 99%. You know how things stick on 99.
So I'll tell you this, because this is, to me, I think you might find this interesting because this is like totally on the professional side. I got to speak, like have a one-on-one with my boss's 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 boss.
Okay.
And he reached out to me. Like, I met him yesterday in person, and we were like, yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with you. And he's like, yeah, that's cool. And then he popped back in and goes, I got this call. I can't. He's like, I'll set something up. So immediately this morning sets up a half-hour call, and I'm like, okay, this guy's on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he actually really does want to have this conversation. I'm like, it's pretty cool when the VP of your entire manufacturing division is willing to give you 30 minutes to just say, this is who I am, and this is where I think I'm headed.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool. So not to get too deep for the folks that are still dialed into the YouTube, but that was neat. I was really, I mean, you're talking about somebody that's like, food chain way up. And I would encourage anyone that may be listening who has still got career left in their life to go, if you have that opportunity, do that, because I promise you'll make a good impression.
Right.
Things you think about when you're 40 that you didn't think about when you were 30.
Right.
So that was actually really cool. He went to NC State, he wore an NC State sweatshirt yesterday, and I was wearing that gray tech shirt I had that just says tech. Mm-hmm. And so we talked about that a little bit too. It was funny. It's interesting now that you get so far removed from like my academic impropriety. I was like, yeah, I wasn't really good at being a good student. And he goes, yeah, well, you make it to where you're at now, it doesn't really matter anymore. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Well, you can let Brandon know we are up on iTunes. Check it yourself if you like, but it looks like we are in all the places. So
We're going to have so here's what we need to do. So Julia turns 30 in November.
Okay.
So we're going to have her back in November.
There we go.
And welcome her to the 30 Club.
There we go.
Well, you can welcome her to the 30 Club because I'll be in
There's that.
in this whole different club now.
Good stuff.
That was cool though. She's awesome, man. I knew it was going to be good. It's just it's hard to nail her down. I knew we couldn't get her last year because she was doing all that Europe stuff, and I'm like, we're so far off in time,
right?
That I don't think we can figure this out.
Right.
I'm sure she wouldn't want to do it at 2:00 in the morning, living in France, and so.
Right.
And we can't do it at 2:00 in the afternoon because we got these whole job things where they give us paychecks and stuff. So, but yeah, that was fun. She's awesome. It's cool to have somebody that's that smart that is a racer too, that would prefer to be making a career out of racing, but she's going to be able to do whatever she wants whenever she decides to get out of a race car.
Oh, absolutely. That's and that's the fun in talking about all this stuff, all the, nerd neck stuff. All right, let's get that tweeted out, and let's pin it. Pin.
What is?
Did you check iTunes yourself?
No, I haven't. I can.
Give it a try.
Absolutely can.
See if PTM.
Let's see what
up.
we got. Ciao.
Ciao.
So, whenever they updated the app for the 6, it got to where I don't like the way the initial interface is. Did it change for you too? Because you should just give me a list of everything that was new.
Let me go check.
Now it's not the same thing, so I have to go chase down our show and see if it loaded in, which is not hard. It's really not that big of a deal. It's just not as easy as it used to be. And I'm like, I thought the whole reason for a software update was to make things easier to use. And I don't think that's what they did. Yep, we're there, buddy. We are there. 279 is on the top of the page. Pardon my French, Julia Landauer.
Booyah. Well, go make fun of... Oh, no, lap traffic's up too. Well, good for him.
He must have figured it out. He's not too shabby at the software stuff either.
Yep. I'll text over to him.
Carlos Slim sat down at my desk to talk fiscal calendar change and servers. Can relate. Female racing university, TED survivor. She's interesting. Yes, bring her back. Yes, Deb too. It's definitely happening. Like, this is going to be much more regular than once every 2 years. I promise you that. We've done established that relationship. At least best I can tell. That's what it takes. You got to start, and then you got to do it again, and then they're like, "Yeah, I'm in for this. This is fun." And that's how you end up with, Matt Weaver on, I think, 11 times now.
Right.
So what else, y'all? Y'all are Deb 2.
Deb. Yep.
What you got? A green screen? Yeah, we hadn't messed with that yet. That's not been a thing yet.
Oh, true. So I guess I could set that up or something on Zoom. So at work, I've got it all set up, and I put myself in funny places and stuff. But on PTM, I haven't done that yet.
Which Cassie?
I know this is going to sound
Raj.
weird, but I use a Mac at work, so I know how to do all the settings on a Mac, but I don't know on Windows here how to do it. I've regressed in my abilities here. It's kind of funny.
Well, I feel confident that if I was committed to it, I could watch a couple of YouTube self-helpers and figure it out. But I'm like, why wouldn't I want cowboy hats and the American flag?
Well, there's that.
I mean, I got a green screen already.
Well, there's that. But my on the Mac, you have the settings menu up there, but I don't know where it is to hold.
I don't know what picture I would put, unless it was something of like you and me in the campground, just sort of candid, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like not at some beach I've never been to, but
Right.
like, hey, this is us at the race. But I usually post all those pics when I do like Thursday throwbacks or Friday flashbacks or whatever you want to call that.
Here we go. I think I can do like. There we go. Oh my goodness, it's completely messed up. That's funny.
Who's Ron Utter? I think hauler driver Ron Utter. Okay. I have no idea who that is, so I probably won't be reaching out to him. Cassie Fambro, yeah, she's not a big fan of me, as it turns out. Not because I was mean, but it just is what it is. That's Matt Weaver's girlfriend, for anybody that knows.
Oh, I know why, too, and it's very benign but hilarious. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't think it... Okay, there you go. I don't know why that got as sideways as it did, because obviously Matt Weaver didn't care.
Right.
But
right. Oh man. Well, cool. Well, man, I need to go make me a drink, so I'm gonna hop off of here. It has been awesome as always.
Yeah, dude, it's fun. I don't have anybody scheduled for next week yet.
We will figure it out.
So I've got some work to do there.
We will figure it out.
I think I know who I want to try to get, so we'll see.
Right on. All right, brother. It's been good times. Let me I'll stop the stream here. YouTubers, peace out.